I'm Anushka Dukas, and I've been designing jewellery for 30 years and collecting charms for as long as I can remember. In this podcast, I will be asking a series of extraordinary women to tell me their life story in 7 charms. Welcome to my podcast, My Life in 7 Charms.
I'm delighted to welcome Clodagh McKenna to My Life in 7 Charms. Oh, Clodagh, I'm so thrilled to be chatting to you.
I know, me too.
I know, I've been really looking forward to
In
this
your
one.
beautiful home.
Oh, thank you. So let's start with the first charm.
Yeah.
So this little charm it's a pot of apple clove jelly. And I was really excited about this one, actually, because I literally see it as a kind of proper miniature, 3-dimensional jam jar. I quite like those hexagonal ones.
Yeah.
They're octagonal ones. So I see this in the actual jar is yellow gold, but with tiny cognac diamonds set all the way around it. So it kind of looks like what the clove jelly would look like. And then it's got a yellow gold label engraved with a tiny little apple with a tiny little white gold bow put around it, and we'll just put on the bottom handmade by Clover.
Oh.
And so why apple clove jelly?
Why apple clove jelly? So I'm going to try and tell you this without getting emotional, because it was a very emotional moment in my life. One of the most emotional moments in my life. So I had gone to Ballymaloe Cookery School. It was my first week there. It was a 3-month course I did, which was 25 years ago this summer, or last January. And it was a lot for my family going there. My mother secretly went away and got a loan from the bank to pay for it without telling my father, because I'd finished university and they wanted me to go into a proper job. And back then, training to be a chef was the only option would be to work in a restaurant kitchen.
Right.
It wasn't like it is now, where there's so many options for people. And so we told my dad the night before I was leaving to go.
Oh my God.
And he was really upset about it and annoyed about it and Cross.
Mm.
And anyhow, off I went and to the cookery school, and I came back the first weekend. And my dad, who was a really typical proud Irish man, you never ever would see cry, and very proud. And I had learned how to make apple clove jelly that week at the cookery school, and I brought back like 6 pots, and I put them down on the kitchen table, went upstairs to take off all my chef gear and change into my clothes, and I came back down, and my dad was sitting at the kitchen table with his legs folded like this and his hands in his hand, or his face cupped in his hand, and he was crying. And I got such a fright when I saw him crying, and I thought that I was really stunned, and it took me a second, because I thought something had happened to my mom or to my brothers or sisters.
You'd never seen him cry before?
I'd seen him cry once before when my granny died. And I looked in the pot of the apple clove jelly had been opened, and there was a spoon but it all over the place on the kitchen table. And I said, Dad, what's happened? Just tell me. And he goes, no, just give me a second. And I said, what is it? And he said, it's the I'm getting emotional now. He said, it's the apple clove jelly. I haven't tasted that taste since Granny used to make it when I was growing up as a child. And it was just amazing. It was just that to see him emotional and let himself go, and to see that this very simple thing of an apple clove jelly, the taste had brought him straight back to that moment with his mom. And at the time I didn't think about the significance of the food or anything like that. I was so happy at that moment. Even though it was all emotional, I was so happy to see that my dad had this wonderful memory and moment with his mom, right there in the kitchen with the apple clove jelly. And then what I didn't realise is that moment stayed with me forever and has been in my thoughts and in my mind ever more. I think we have these moments in life and we don't realise the implications that they have on us. And what that did to me is that it really grounded in me what food can do and the importance of it and
the memories it evokes, clearly.
And the memories it evokes and the skills, the old-fashioned skills, and to keep up those traditional things and making something for somebody, like you make jewellery, or making food, making with your hands something for somebody. And that love that goes into it and what it does. And it never leaves people. It never leaves people. It didn't leave my father. And that immediately, from then on, I never, ever looked back on food. It was always my love.
And having been a bit ambivalent, to say the least, about you going to cookery school.
Yeah.
Was that a moment where he was like...
Oh, it all changed.
It all changed over the apple clove.
So it all changed.
Actually, just talking about that, Ballymaloe.
Yeah.
You mentioned Ballymaloe. I suspect this next charm has got to do with that. But I just want to ask you, what is it about Ballymaloe? Because over the years, it's become utterly legendary all around the world.
Yeah.
So I'm like, what is it about Ballymaloe? It's actually very close to home for you.
Yeah. It's magical. It's magical because, Dorina Allen, who is the founder of the Cookery School, along with her brother Rory O'Connell, who now owns the Cookery School, he just took it over, and all of the Allens, the late Myrtle Allen and the late Hazel Allen and Rachel and everybody who's involved at Ballymaloe, they are there for the love of teaching and making a difference in the food culture, but also that links into farming and the environment and our water and everything. So there's a thread throughout it. It doesn't just stop with food. There's no ego there. They're Quakers, so they've got this wonderful family work ethic together. Everybody does something. So it's quite a magical place to go. And I was so lucky to be there in the end for 3 years. And I'm still incredibly close to them. They're such a big part of my life and always will be.
This brings me to your next charm. This is a yellow gold fish skeleton. So the fish head and then the tail at the end, but in between all the bones, and they're all articulated. And it's got a little black diamond eye. And then down one side of the spine, I've put little white gold, tiny little garlic flowers.
First of all, that's so amazing that you've just created that. So that was a big moment for me because when I finished the cookery school, I got offered a job to train as a chef but that was my chef training really, at Ballymaloe House. And at the time, the head chef there was Rory O'Connell, who is one of my lifelong best friends. When I got to Ballymaloe, they gave me a little cottage to live in, and then Rory got me a dog, right. And so I had my dog, and I became like part of their family very, very fast. Oh, wonderful. Yeah, and the work was so hard, but I didn't mind. I was so young and so young and so
How
much energy. 24?
Oh yeah, you were probably young.
Yeah. Like this 25 years ago, like, woo, like so much energy and so enthusiastic. And, we'd come into work at 10 in the morning, we'd finish at like 12 at night, and it was just physical, big pots and everything. And I was tiny. And I think at the time I was the only girl in the kitchen, in the main kitchen.
Yeah, because things have changed a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And for the first year, I was just on the soup section. So I was making soups for like 140 people every day, or making batches of aioli or prepping vegetables. And, that's your kind of beginning part. And then one day, I think it was somebody called in sick or something happened. Can't remember exactly the detail, but I was put into main course fish. So I went from there over to main course fish. When I look back now, I'm thinking, why wasn't I terrified? Why was I nervous or kind of break down going, I can't do it? I was so excited. I just couldn't believe it. I'd be on. So I remember I ran down outside, right, Ballymaloe House is here, and then all these wonderful kind of wild gardens and woodlands all around. and there's a stream running down where there was the most amazing patch of wild garlic. So I ran down there and picked massive buckets of wild garlic leaves, and then all the beautiful pert white flowers.
Yeah.
So beautiful. And then I did it so fast, I came back up and I had them all, and I said, I'm going to make wild garlic butter to go with the black show.
Right.
Hence your black diamond. And I made a maitre d' butter with the wild garlic butter and blah, 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 cooked off the fish, and it was my first plate going up. And I remember I wanted it so beautiful and so clean. The fish was so fresh that it come in from Ballycotton, which is a local fishing village, which is only like 5 miles away. And I remember what I had learned there is the most important thing is not you, is actually the ingredient. And that don't overcook it, you know, don't over season it, don't over flavour it. It has to, you have to be able to taste the beauty of the ingredient. But everything had to be perfectly cooked. You know, people were coming to Ballymaloe for perfection.
Yeah.
Black sole is quite a rough, like skin, it's quite a tough skin. And peeling it back and then gently pushing the fillet off the bone and onto the plate, and then getting my wild garlic butter, straight slicing, you know, the beautiful, perfect round maitre d', putting it on the top, and then putting the leaf on it. And my wild garlic, you know, beautiful broad leaf, which kind of is a beautiful arch to it, swooped right over the fish like that. And then the pert flour went straight up like that, and the butter started just gently melting down the back of the fish. And I put it up, and I thought, oh, is this too simple? And then I put it up, and Rory looked at it and was like, yeah, that'll do. That'll do. Oh. And the head waitress, who was absolutely terrifying, and everybody, you always have to get, you'd nearly be as worried about what Rory would say as what she would say. And she'd been there forever, since she was a young girl. She'd been at the right beginning of Ballymaloe, and she came up and she goes, yeah, well done, Clodagh, well done. Now come on, back to work, quickly, back to work. And I was standing, I was so happy with myself. And it was that night, then we all went to the pub, and I sat up beside Rory, and I was just delighted with myself. And he didn't have to say anything to me, you know, because
you just knew.
This was my job, it was my work. And that's what I also learned as well, is that you don't need to be a pat on the back for everything in life. You know, you just need to feel it.
So has that really informed your, in terms of what you said about the flavour being all about the ingredient as opposed to everything else that goes with it?
Always, forever. Ever since then, when I then went on to work in farmers markets and worked with slow food in Italy, and came back and had my own restaurants, and then you know, setting up the farm, it's always been about that. And you know, I veered away on different things so many times, as you do as chef, but I've always come back to my true self of really, I'm most comfortable and what I most love is the simplicity of dishes, because you can really, it's so, when a chef cooks like that, it's like they're naked, as in like they can't cover up anything. They have to be able to execute it so perfectly.
Your next charm is, I think, represents your mummy. You said, I remember my mummy is dancing. So I've done it as a pair of Irish dancing shoes.
Yeah.
Which is quite difficult to do.
I bet.
They're quite difficult to do. So I've done them really in white gold, 3-dimensional, a pair of shoes hanging from outline of a shamrock, 3 little emeralds in it.
Oh, so special.
And the shoes are 3-dimensional, but they're all with black pave diamond and the white gold laces. And on the bottom, I've just engraved Mum.
Oh.
But I'd love you to tell me a bit about your mummy.
I have her spirit and her, you know, which I really guard. She is, so my mom was a dancer. She was an Irish dancer. She danced for 3 American presidents.
Wow.
She's so incredible, like such amazing rhythm, and also an incredible voice as well. She and I have had this incredibly close relationship all our life, whereas we're mother and daughter, but also soulmates and best friends. And we've had that from as long as I can remember, this extraordinary relationship. And everywhere I've gone, she's come. So from when I started my career doing cookery demonstrations, she used to travel with me and sell my cookery books afterwards to photo shoots in France for my book. She would come with me and be there making cups of tea for everybody. But what she instilled me from the very, very beginning, and I was so confused when I was finishing school of what I wanted to do, she sat me down and she said to me, really don't worry about the exams. It really doesn't matter. I really don't mind if you become a hairdresser or a dancer or a banker. I don't care what you become. And I don't want you to care either. What I do want you to care about is that whatever you do, you love it. You know, like as I'm growing up, everything was work and not easy and hard. But she would always find these moments of just kind of like, it's like craziness, but like safe craziness. I don't know, she had this thing in elevators. So every week we'd do the shopping in a place called Roach Stores in Cork, which was the big shop in Cork. We'd go in and we'd go into the elevator, and the minute the elevator doors would go, and she'd wait and she'd let other people go in. She'd go, no, you take, I'll get the next one, get the next one. We'd all be standing there kind of like, so all the children so excited around, hanging onto the trolley. And then we would go in on our own and she'd be pressing the button really quickly. And I think about it, she was only like 30 something, like with all these children. And she'd press the button, and the minute thing would go, then she'd go, okay. And then we'd all have to do the Irish dancing in the elevator. And she would always park at the top level of the car park, especially. So we would have a long lift. That created this gave me this love of, and I still do it. I still lock myself in a room and put on my head speakers and dance.
So that your extraordinary kind of effervescent spirit and your whole demeanour, it comes from this. It comes from this extraordinary.
She was really amazing.
She gave you.
And she gave me this she gave me this. She really developed a spirit for me. And I remember her saying to my sister in front of me, and she was saying, "We have to guard Clodagh's spirit. You have to promise me. The most important thing is that Clodagh's spirit doesn't get damaged." And I always remember thinking, God, that's so self-indulgent to me, as in Mom is slightly obsessed with me. And now I understand what she did, and I always thought about it since then. She said it, and it was a big thing that she said to my sisters. And my sisters have always been that way then about me, always allowing me to do what I want to do and kind of protecting me around it.
And generous on their part.
And generous on their part as well.
I mean, your spirit is kind of infectious, I'd say. Clearly, you took that to heart, because you went on and opened how many restaurants?
Yeah, 3 restaurants.
3 restaurants.
Yeah, 3 restaurants.
You were on
in
a
Ireland.
cookery program. Just tell me a little bit about.
So when I left Ballymaloe, to open up farmers markets around the country. So I did a project for about 3 years where I went around the country opening up farmers markets, and I had a little cottage down in West Cork, and I was just on this amazing journey of nothing could stop me from trying to change the food culture in Ireland. And then all of a sudden television started, and Rick Stein was over filming his Food Hero show, and he put me on it, which was amazing. And then I went on and I was offered my own TV series. So I made 5 TV series, and I wrote 8 cookery books. And then I thought it came to a point where I was all of a sudden a household name in Ireland.
Yes.
And I was very young. I was 30. And another thing, to bring my mum back into this, I was walking up Grafton Street in Dublin, and all of a sudden everybody knew who I was. And I was on the front cover of magazines and all the rest. And it was walking up, and people kept stopping me to say hello and blah, blah, blah. And then I put my mum to the side, and I was like, God, this is just awful. And people stopping me everywhere. I don't think I can live like this. And she turned around and she looked at me and she goes, "Shame on you. Shame on you. Are you the luckiest woman alive walking up this street where people want to stop and say something lovely to you? How lucky are you? At this moment, I'm very embarrassed." And she looked at me like that, and she goes, "Have a think about it, and I'll talk to you soon." And she walked off, got the train from Dublin back to Cork.
Oh my God.
I didn't see her for like a month.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I'll
That's
never
a bit
forget it standing there.
Spoiled brat slap.
Exactly. And it changed me. The effect that it had on me. First, I was so angry that she had left me in Dublin.
Yeah.
And I was there on my own.
Yeah.
And I was kind of standing there and all of a sudden it was lost. And she didn't have a mobile phone back then.
No.
And I was thinking, what am I going to do? And yeah, I decided I need to up my game and I need to figure myself out. So basically 2 months later, I was living in Italy without a word of Italian. And I got a job at Slow Food, which was an organisation that I was setting up in Ireland voluntarily. And I got a job over in Italy then.
Right.
But that was a moment where I thought, I need to learn more about food. I need to respect the position I have more. And I need to really embrace it and embrace the love that people show me and give that back.
I want to take a quick moment to say thank you to our sponsor, Rome. I was recently introduced to this brilliant new skincare brand, and I've got to say, I'm already a big fan. Their clinically backed formulas are smart, simple, and seriously effective. Using the latest biotechnology, Rome pairs the best of nature with groundbreaking science. No fuss, no overthinking, just well-made, purposeful formulas that really deliver. It's honestly changed the way I think about looking after my skin. We're proud to be partnering with a brand that shares our outlook. Authentic, curious, and always pushing for better. So thank you, Rome, not just for supporting this podcast, but for proving that skincare doesn't need to be complicated to be meaningful.
Clodagh, your next charm, I'm fascinated by this charm, but you said to me that you'd moved to London and the coach house was obviously a really important part of your life.
Yeah.
But so what I've drawn is actually an arch, like an entrance to an old coach house, bricks around the arch, and then big wooden doors. And I've actually put a horseshoe on the doors. It's in yellow gold, and the horseshoe's got little diamonds in it, and those are the handles. And inside, so it's a locket. So inside, it just says Highbury. Is it Highburyfield?
Yeah, Highburyfield.
Yes. Highburyfield, London.
Oh.
It could be engraved with anything in it. But just tell me about this. Tell me about the coach house. It's an important
Okay.
period for you.
Well, I'll tell you how I got there, because I was in Italy. Then I came back, had the restaurants for 7 years. And then all of a sudden I hit a wall. I was exhausted from the restaurants. I'd gone from being a chef in the restaurants to become a manager. And it was like 138 staff, and I had no days off. I was working 7 days a week. I was so exhausted. I completely lost who I was as a person. So I went to London thinking, I'll come here for a few months and then, go back to Ireland again. But I didn't. And I found this coach house, which I fell in love with when I walked in the doors in Highburyfield. Everybody was like, are you mad? When I walked in there. Yeah, and also the coach house itself was like this windy stairs, and it was literally a Staples of like 3 floors. Yeah. And it was so beautiful and so charming, and the feeling when I walked in there, I knew it immediately, this is going to be my home. I moved in there, I made it mine, and I decided when I was in there that I was going to get back to myself and do everything to kind of give myself love, basically to fall in love with myself again. I made a baked bread every other day. I had people over for dinner. My little supper parties that I did, I had about like 4 or 5 times a week, and we did sing-song afterwards, basically how my mother grew up. So I'd cook all the way during the day, and then I used to have suppers then, because then I had to pay the rent as well. So I decided that I would have supper clubs where people paid to come in and have supper at the coach house. Yeah. So I did about 8 of those a month, and that covered my rent and my little pocket money, and that's all I needed. And so I just got creative, cooking, making friends, and loving myself. And there were definitely dark times during that time as well, where I felt low and very alone, weekends and things like that when everybody's doing something. But I got through all of that. and it made me so strong, and it made me be okay to be on my own.
The next thing I know is we're talking about your next charm, which clearly is all about New York. It's the logo for NBC.
How cool.
Describe the logo for listeners for NBC, but I think it's a peacock.
Yeah,
It's a
so
peacock.
clever.
And all its wings are out, and it's all different colours. And so I've done each part of the wing as it opens in yellow sapphires, and the next one in orange sapphires, all kind of pave and really small, tiny little micro pave stones. And then we've got little rubies, and then amethysts, pale purple amethysts, and then blue sapphires, and then savorites, which are lovely green colour. And the actual
Amazing.
bird in front is textured yellow gold, and he's holding from his feet a tiny little seed pearl. That's just because I love movement in my charm. But I mean, Clodagh, it's quite a thing to go from having a tough time
Yeah.
to the next thing. You're on NBC Cooking on the Today Show. Were you absolutely terrified? Because it's live, isn't it?
I was terrified. Yeah, I was. So it was Rainey Farrell, who was the producer on the Today Show, and still is.
Right.
She's such an amazing woman. And she had seen me on the Rachel Ray Show. I'd been on the Rachel Ray Show.
Also American.
Also American,
Yes.
huge daytime show. All my TV series that I'd made in Ireland got all bought up by NBC, and they made them into one long series called Clodagh's Irish Food Trails. That got huge viewership in America, 15 million views on that one. And that opened up the gates to America for me, and I got right up in Forbes and all the rest. And I was on Times Square, billboard on Times Square and everything. So it was a really exciting time. And then the Today Show asked me to start coming, if I would come on the Today Show. And I was so excited, flew over. Well, I didn't realise that would begin me becoming a regular on the show,
Right.
which then happened afterwards. But the very first time
Yes,
I went on that show, and I was so used to doing pre-recording, not so used to doing live, which is a completely different game to doing pre-record, because pre-record you're relaxed, everybody's quiet and wet. When you're in an atmosphere of live television, the energy is up here.
And there's an audience. Is there a live audience out of interest?
No, there's no
Okay.
audience.
But even so.
And which is probably harder, because you've got nobody, but you've got to remember all the time.
No applause.
Yeah, exactly. And with the Today Show, at the time watching you, it's about 20 million. This morning is 5 million. And then worldwide, by the time it finishes, about 50 million, because it goes all over the world.
Yeah.
And so it's huge pressure. And I arrived up early in the morning, like 6 o'clock in the morning, walking up into Rockefeller Centre, and there was like everybody they always do a live once a week outside of a performance, and it was Jennifer Lopez performing.
Oh my God.
And I was like, oh my God. And they were like, yeah, it's exciting. She'll be performing, and then we'll go to the cook. So I'm like, yeah, I'm following Jennifer Lopez. Here I am. Little Irish girl here in New York, just off the plane from London. And I was like, Grant, yeah, of course. And I was up there, and it was Al Croker, who's the most amazing. Have you watched the Today Show ever? Yeah. Do you know the black presenter? Yeah. Al Croker's always doing the dance. Yeah. Anyhow, I was standing there with him, and I felt overwhelmed with nerves. And when you're doing the Today Show and you're cooking, you're up on the second floor, at least last few years anyway. You're up on the second floor, and the main floor is down here. So you're up in your own space, and you've got about like 12 cameras all around you, space like this. And it could be a space like this. And you can't make a mistake. Right. Like on This Morning, you can laugh and all the rest if you made a mistake. On the Today Show, it's like no mistakes happen. Like we are the number one morning show in the world. Like this just doesn't happen. And we rely on huge sponsorship before you and after you. Yeah. And if anything goes wrong, the sponsorships go, And I just got overwhelmed with nerves. And I was like, what am I going to do? And I said, I have to talk. I have to tell him. Yeah. So I looked at Al and I held his hand, and I'd never done the show with him before. I held his hand like that, and I was like, can I tell you something? And he's like, yeah, quick, baby, quick. He goes, we're coming now. We're coming. And I I think we had like 3 or 4 minutes, something like that. And I was like, I'm overcoming her. I think I'm actually having a panic attack right now. I'm going to go into a panic attack. I won't be able to talk. I won't be able to do it. And he looked at me and he goes, that's okay, baby. He kept on saying, baby, that's okay, baby. I'm going to show you something. So I didn't tell you what he did I?
No,
And the
tell
thingy.
me.
Okay, so I'm going to show you this. And this is, everybody who's watching this, I want you to show another person so that we all learn this.
Okay.
So you look into your hand, and in the palm of your hand, picture yourself as a child. Beautiful, beautiful child full of all the dreams in the world. How much you love that girl. You love that girl more than anybody in the world, if you're going to be really honest about it. Take all that love that you have for her and put it against your heart and close your eyes and then follow me. I want you to breathe in for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. Slowly breathe out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And slowly breathe out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. In for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold for 4, 3, 2, 1. And then slowly out for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Open your eyes. So what's on your mind?
Calm.
Yeah, nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
It's completely calm.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it's odd feeling, isn't it? Yeah.
Odd.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what he did.
Yeah.
And you went on
And I went on and
flawless.
flawless.
No way.
Yeah. And that started my whole love of meditation.
So do you do that now every day?
I meditate every day, sometimes twice a day if I really need it. I do it in the morning, and then I'll do a little reminder, mental breathing when I'm getting my makeup done. And then, then we do the show, and the show's getting going and all the rest. But before I do my cook and everything like that, and the hype of the show is people running in and out, and everybody, the nervousness, the nervous energy, because you've got so many guests coming in who have never done live before. So there's a lot of nervous energy around. I'm always thinking of my mom to protect my spirit. So that's where it all comes back to, protecting my spirit, who I am. And so about 20 minutes before my live cook, religiously, I go and I put on my speakers and I go into a full, intense anxiety meditation to release all anxiety. And it's like my really intense one. And I come off it and I go on to this morning and I'm like,
Mrs.
hey,
Mrs.
how's everybody? Yeah. And I can be myself.
God, that's such a skill.
Because one thing I've learned about doing live television, and it was Michael Parkinson that actually told me this one time at lunch. And I was cooking a lunch for him at Fortnum's. And he said to me, the biggest challenge will be for you to be the same person all the time. How do you stay the same person all the time? Which is really important for me as a person. It really matters to me about like who I am all the time, consistency in my life. So I have down the camera, the black camera down there.
Yeah.
And every week there's 4 or 5 million people watching on This Morning. I have a certain woman who I talk to, who I'm not going to tell you about, but I talk to her every week and I cheer up her day. And she needs me. She really needs me. And she needs me to be me. She doesn't need anybody fake or somebody pretending or acting like a different person. She needs me to be me. And I have to show up for her. I owe her it. And so I have this person. And when I go in, when I start my live cook every time, you might notice it when I do live, but I always look into the camera and I smile. And that's my smile to her. And then she's in the room with me. And then whoever's presenting at the time on This Morning, they're in the room to me and nobody else is in the room. It's just the 4 of us. My lovely person watching at home who really needs me that day, and the presenters, and we cook together and we have a gorgeous, cozy, loving time together, because that's what food is. It changed my father's emotions. I know I can change her emotion at home. I'm keeping my spirit. I'm here and I'm doing what I love.
Clodagh, so powerful.
Yeah.
It's so powerful and so lovely to hear. So I love this little charm. This is about representing Broadspear and the love and attention that went into creating the garden. So I couldn't really resist not doing these little, a proper miniature trowel and miniature fork. And it's made of 18-karat gold, perfectly formed, exactly a miniature of a trowel and a fork. The only difference is they're both going to have diamond handles with black rhodium around the handle, and it'll just be gorgeous. I think I'd really love to know how you met Harry.
Yeah. It was one of those, Harry always calls it the sliding door moment. Yeah. We were sitting next to each other at a boardroom lunch at Fortnum's. Ewan Venters, who was the CEO at the time, was a really good friend of mine, and Harry was there. Angela Hartnett was on the other side of him. So he was squished by two female chefs, and we got on so well. We were both at a stage in our life. He had been divorced and separated for 2 years. I'd been out of my relationship for 2 years. He was emotionally finding himself. I was the exact same. I'd reached my 2-year mark. He was about, I think it was a bit more than 2 years. But it wasn't, it was just like we got on incredibly well. And he had, was talking about his world, that he loved theatre and blah, blah, blah. And I have a lot of friends that are in that world. And all his friends were in racing. Yeah. And I was like, you must know blah, blah, blah. Or do you ever go to this theatre or that theatre? And he hadn't. And I was like, oh my God, you've got to do that. That's your love. And I was like, come to a dinner with me. And I was doing a dinner with Sally Green. We were doing a dinner for the Old Vic Theatre together, myself and Sally. And we had lots of people in the theatre industry coming, and we were doing it at Sally's house. The two of us were hosting it, and I said, why don't you come along to that and you'll meet lovely people. And so he came to that, and something just clicked that night. And all my friends afterwards were gathering around me going like, oh my God, you've got a date and he's so gorgeous and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, oh, but he's so different to me. As in like, we're so different. Like from like the outside looking
different
in.
Backgrounds, different everything.
Yeah, he, grew up in a very old, aristocratic British family. I grew up in the most Irish you could imagine. And so we were so different. And all my friends were either in music or actors or artists or blah, 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 so different. And all of his friends were all in horses. We were just so, so different. But we completely fell in love with each other. And what we had, which actually so wonderful, I was speaking to my sister-in-law, who's like my sister now, Carolyn, Harry's sister. I got so lucky. But anyhow, we completely fell in love with each other. But what we realised, and now I mentioned Carolyn, my sister-in-law, is that our values are the same. Our values, I love family, I love kindness, I love loyalty, I love that wonderful peacefulness. So I come home and there's never a moment of anybody being anxious or angry or frustrated or whatever. He is always kind. He always picks up the phone and goes, hello, my darling, in that soft voice. He'll never leave the phone call without saying, I love you so much. Like, this is like 8 years on. He says this every single phone call. And he is so calm all the time. I can tell him everything in my life. I don't hold back on anything. He knows every single, light secret, dark secret, everything in my whole life. And I know everything in his whole life too. And with it came 3 beautiful children who are now my stepchildren. And I'm so lucky as well, with that.
The charm that I designed really to represent that is, it seems a bit trite now, having heard all of that. So I've made this like a little tiny miniature hamper, and inside It's got a little champagne bottle, a little red heart because that comes from their chocolate department, and obviously
Amazing.
totally sums up your meeting Harry, and a little horseshoe to represent his. But you've created this incredible life at Broadspear, which, as
Yeah.
I said, so is all on the Highclere estate.
Yes.
So tell me about that.
So yeah, in Highclere we all have, or patches, and ours is Broadspear. I mean, it really is so magical in Uisce, a sustainable farm, and we have woodland pigs and cattle and chickens and ducks with fluffy bottoms that walk up and down the parade, and we've cleared out all of the laurel. We have the most beautiful views, so all of the beautiful capability landscape is now all back to how it should be. And we live off the land. We have our own beef, our own pork, our own eggs, all our own pickles, our own garlic, our own onions, our own vegetables, fruit, everything. And we pickle for the whole winter time as well. So pickling sheds and our...
really come back to your version of Ballymaloe. It seems.
Yeah, I know. It's so true.
Created.
Yeah.
A version of Ballymaloe.
Yeah, I was talking to Dorina about that actually last year, or honoured my 25th anniversary when I was over in Ballymaloe this year.
And at what stage did you put the pub in?
Pub. So the pub. So we would walk through the woods, and when everything was on its way and we're building the wall garden and or restoring it and all the rest, and the chickens are kind of all in now, we cut through the woods. We've got the most beautiful woodlands on our property, and so cut a little walkway through the woods, and at the very top of it was this fallen down shepherd's hut, which had this beautiful view down one of the really big fields that went on to Temple Lake. And the foundation is there, and when you in old buildings like that and stuff like that, when you have foundation, you're like, foundation's there, but let's go for it. We can do it. And it had all fallen in and everything. And I kept walking past it and saying, oh, Harry, it'd be fabulous to have like a pub here, because we have no good pubs around us. And he kept on saying, no, we have enough going on. No. And he kept walking past it. And then all of a sudden lockdown came. And we in between, do you remember there was one lockdown that opened up and we had those few months?
Yeah, in the summer.
In the summer. Harry asked me to marry him during that period, which was all very exciting. I never thought I was going to get married. All of a sudden then I just fell in love with the idea then of being married, of being engaged. But it was a bit of a shock at the beginning. And then we decided we were going to get married the next year. During that whole period then, I started looking at how much it would cost to do really lovely marquees for our after party for thingy. I wanted to do it in the woods. And it was so expensive. I said to Harry, I'm not paying 50,000 for a marquee that's going to be here for 3 days. Anything that's happening to Broadspear has to be here permanently. So I found the wonderful wood surgeon brother, and I had always had a dream of doing a pub and had a little bit of experience in carpentry, built it with me, and the two of us did it together over a period of like 4 months.
Physically banging in the nails, scoring the wood.
Yeah, he did most of it, and I was his like assistant. Every single day we worked on it because I had no work during lockdown, so I could do it. Everything was built on all our own wood from fallen trees that we'd seasoned, so it's completely built sustainably. And the most magical tree that broke our hearts, that fell down during a storm, we seasoned for about 2-3 years. And anyhow, it is now the big bar. So it lives forever, the curves and everything. Every time I go in, I hold it, I remember the tree. And it's there, and it's got a fireplace, it's got a kitchen, it's a full-on pub, and it's called the Cork Arms. And we have a magical party there, which you are going to be there this year. Is our St. Patrick's Day party, where we get hundreds of oysters come over from Ireland, and everybody from Bob Geldof to Imelda May to everybody, all the Irish lads are all there in full musician form with their instruments and singing, and we dance on top of the bar, and it's a whole celebration of Ireland and our culture and everything that night, and that's It's magical. It's really magical.
You've achieved so much, and you've done so much. 8 books, the Today programme, this morning. I mean, you could just say, okay, enough.
Yeah.
You could. But it doesn't strike me that you're going to say that.
No, I mean, I think that women like you and me, we don't want to be put out to graze. I love doing TV. I love the reach and all the rest. But it's like, I'm really okay with, my love is love for life. Would be really okay if I had to stop, if my TV career ended in a few years' time or next year, whatever. I'd be really okay with it. It's not like my everyday, my love is growing and having animals around me and cooking at home, and if I can, pay my bills with that, I'm so lucky. That is my core life. If you took that away from me, I'd be really sad. Anything else is grand. Genuinely, really grand.
Soda, it's been such a joy.
Yes,
I feel like I've learned so much. I've absolutely loved it. Anyway, I could actually talk for another 3 hours, but I know you got to go. But most importantly, as a thank you for coming and chatting to me, I'd like to make you one of those charms, and I'd like to know which one you would like.
It's easy.
Okay.
It's can you guess?
I think so, but you tell me.
It's the dancing shoes.
I thought it would be the dancing shoes.
So magical. Magical.
I'm so well. When you said to me that that's how you think of your mummy, I'm like, okay, well, that's what I've got to do.
Yeah.
So we'll make them beautifully.
We'll
make them beautifully.
Thank
and we'll just talk about what you want on the bottom, whether you want mum or maybe you want her name or whatever. We talk about that.
How are you? I'm really good. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very excited about this.
I'm very excited.
So look, here we are. Here's your charm.
Oh my gosh. Can I open it?
Yeah, you've got to. Okay. You've got to open it.
Oh my goodness, Anushka.
So this is for your mummy.
Yes.
The Irish dancer.
Yes.
And the little Irish dancing shoes.
Oh,
and
Anushka, that's so special. Oh my God, that's incredible. Oh my goodness. Oh, Anushka. Oh. I'm really concentrating on not crying.
No, you cry.
Because that is
fine. We don't mind if you cry.
so incredibly special.
Oh.
Thank you.
Oh, that is so sweet.
Oh, thank you so much, Anushka. That's the most beautiful and the most precious thing I've ever had.
But that's what jewellery is all about. That it's about the memories. It's about what it means to you.
Yeah.
And I know, you'll always think of your mummy.
Yeah.
When you have those, or when you touch them, or whatever. And I think that's what's so important. That's why this whole Life in Charms is such a lovely thing.
Yeah.
It tells you so much.
My whole childhood is all really around dancing and music with my mom. She brought that magic into my life. And so Anushka has designed 2 little Irish dancing shoes in black diamonds and 18-karat gold. The back, the soles are so silky, just like the back of the soles of Irish dancing shoes. And then above it then is the shamrock. Obviously, I'm Irish. And so the whole experience has been so amazing because when I met Anushka, she asked me about all my life in charms. So which took me a bit of time to pull together. But then when you do, it's wonderful to see it in front of you. Before I even sent it to her, it was quite nice, quite therapeutic to do it. And it's wonderful, to be able to wear a big part of your life, with you, as a piece of jewellery, so that when I'm here in London, so far away from my mom, I can just touch it and it just brings me right back. Quite an emotional experience. But it's the most beautiful. Jewellery really should mean something, shouldn't it? And this definitely means a lot to me.
Thank you for joining us on My Life in Charms. If today's conversation has inspired you to reflect on your own story, begin your Life in Charms journey at anushka.com or email bespoke@anushka.com. And don't forget to follow or subscribe to hear more extraordinary stories told in jewels.